Okay, yay! I always feel like every week is just I barely make it, and I feel like I escaped, I cheated death just a little bit just by getting here on time and by remembering how to start things up. It's only like 15 weeks in. Fantastic that I can remember how to start it up again. Yeah, I'm not that good at things. Hi, my name's Chris. Thanks for coming and hanging out with me for an hour here in mid-December, week 15, fantasy semifinals on the way. I appreciate you very much being here, and I'm sure the crowd will be a little smaller than usual. That's to be expected. That's how things go. It sort of goes out with a whimper, not so much with a bang, because lots of people get frustrated with fantasy and like, I lost, I'm out. I don't need to talk to you, dude. And that's fine, dude or dudette. So here we are, and we'll have some fun. We'll talk about some things. Let's see. Rudd has a question. It's a good question. Would you trust Mark Andrews tonight? I see you have him rated higher than O.J. Howard, for example. Maybe is Howard a safer play? Would appreciate the Possums take too if he's sober. I mean, let's say it's a dicey proposition. So I talked about it a little bit on the podcast today, Rudd. I ranked him where I ranked him, but of course have no foreknowledge of what the heck's going to happen. I'm with you. It sort of seemed to me like I didn't rank him originally, right? I didn't. I don't know if you know that, but I did not. I put him in this morning when the Ravens said they expect him to play in this game that's coming up in a few hours. It just seems, logically speaking, I mean, I guess we were told it's not a big deal. It's a bruise. That's what we were told, right? And okay. So maybe it's not a big deal. When you leave a game and then you have to, play 4 days later or something, it does make me think it was kind of a big deal. I said literally on the show that Howard would belong to the group of guys who I have rated right below him, where if you just want to be risk averse, not that O.J. Howard's that risk averse, but no Mike Evans, like we get some logic behind why it could work out that way. I think it probably just comes down to your own feeling of how much will you get to live with it. This is the question that I know myself for my own teams. I always go back to exactly this question. How much does it tick me off if I start him and he does nothing, he gets hurt, he pulls an Alshon, he pulls a Cooper, he pulls an AJ Green, he's one hit once and he's out, as opposed to how much does it tick me off if I leave him on the bench and he goes off? That's really the only meaningful question, and you probably are the better judge of that. I just don't know any more than you do about how likely it is that he's okay. I just it doesn't seem logical, but they're saying they're going to play him, and maybe that's just entirely about trying to fool the Jets. It's going to be one of the leading questions in this game. You are right about that for sure. Let's see. So Sir Dre asks the same question about Mark Andrews, and then he throws it in, how much do you trust Adam Thielen? And it's the same. I mean, again, the answer to many, many questions in mid-December after we've all owned these idiots for 4 months is you have every bit as much of a take as I do. Like, I'll tell you what, I trust Adam Thielen less this time than I did last time. He came back and ran once and went, my hamstring. So I think it's just going to come down to how much is it going to make you – do you have a viable alternative that's maybe below him in the ranks, because we know he doesn't have quite the upside that Thielen has, but – doesn't probably have the downside, hopefully, of going for, 2 snaps and hurting himself. And how much, so do you have some alternative that's viable? And then how much can you live with it? How much can you live with Thielen scoring 3 touchdowns on your bench? As stupid as it sounds, of course we know that that's possible, right? What a story, right? It's all over ESPN. It's all over Red Zone. It's all they can talk about. Can you believe it? Adam Thielen comes back and scores 3 touchdowns. That's almost a little Scott Hansen right there. 3 touchdowns, in the first quarter, right? I mean, it's possible. So there's upside, but there's ridiculous downside. And the literal answer to your question about how much do I trust, and this is a very good question, incidentally. This is one of the questions of the weekend, so we need to talk about this. But my literal answer is less than last time. Some, but less than last time. To me, on the podcast today, we did DFS, we used DraftKings, right? And I put Thielen on my team for like a more of a GPP, a bigger pool kind of arrangement. He's perfect for that because I don't think that many people are going to take him because of the extra risk. And if you happen to hit, you're probably hitting alone. But, for season long, it's not fun. No question about it. Cody says, howdy. Howdy, Cody. Zach says, Geis as a keeper. Please discuss. So one half of it, you know exactly what I'm going to say, and that half is, golly, he seems injury prone. Golly, his knees don't seem put together like most people's knees, but of course it's a seam, right? We don't really know that. Dalvin Cook didn't seem like he was all that well put together the first 2 years either, and comes out and stays healthy and has a historic season, or a really, really good season. So no matter what we think of Geis' talent, his draft stock next year, rightly so, is not going to be as high as it could be based on the talent. Because I'm about to tell you, I like the talent a lot. That's the second part that I can shed some light on. My feeling is you are going to have to factor in the risk, just like I don't regret factoring the risk on Dalvin Cook. Knowing what I know now, if I could go back and make Dalvin Cook the RB2, I'd probably do it, you know? But can't do that. And I don't really regret it, because there's a world in which the dude never gets healthy. There's a world in which he's Kerryon Johnson also has 2 years, also will be depressed. There's a world in which he's Ahmad Bradshaw. There's a world in which he's, what's the kid's name? David Wilson for the Giants. There's a world where they just never get right. And that it sometimes happens, right? Wilson's probably a better analogy for this purpose, first round pick. So as to the second part of the question, which is Geis, his talent, I'm very much in favor of Darius Geis. He's not a Saquon Barkley kind of unbelievable. Like, how can a man? Now this year Barkley hasn't done that, but he got hurt in week 3. I'm going to take a moment. Let's shelve that for another time. But the Saquon Barkley, 230-pound, but still runs like a deer, still cuts on the dime. Still, that's not quite what Geis is in my estimation. And it is an estimation. It's only a few games, but he's not quite the giant human who runs like a little human the way Barkley is. But could he be Zeke Elliott in the right situation? I think he kind of could. He's a moose. He seems to have excellent vision, and he can cut enough. You know, I'll watch David Montgomery all year, and I don't mean to say David Montgomery's bad, because I don't think he's bad. I just think we were sold a bill of goods on Montgomery as this guy in training camp who just looked like the second coming, and how mobile, and wow, and the very first game David Montgomery comes out and you see a hole and he doesn't cut to it. You go, oh, okay, maybe he's a big back, and maybe he's like a better version of Jordan Howard. And then I watch a couple of games of Darius Geis and I go, ooh, that's kind of felt like what they were promising me with David Montgomery. So I'm very in favor of the talent. He's going to be worth a draft day risk, but it is going to be a risk, clearly. Ahmed says, howdy, Harris. Fantasy's unpredictable. You'll help make it fun, so thank you for that. I hope that's true. I hope I do. I know there's some people who don't like me, and that's okay. I hope there are more people who do. Or I guess in the end, everyone wants to be liked, but maybe I'm not for everybody. But hopefully for some people, and thank you, Ahmed, for saying that's really nice. So Mark and other people, I see single position questions. This is always going to be the case in these live streams. This may be the first one you're ever coming to. I don't have my ranks memorized, and it doesn't make a lot of sense for me to be on camera talking to a lot of people and have, momentarily like looking up my ranks. Just go to harrisfootball.com. If you're wondering this quarterback or that quarterback, I spend about 5 hours on Tuesdays putting together my single position ranks, and you'll be able to see my opinion there. Let's see. What is the upside and variance for Jacob Hollister? I'm a worried Jared Cook owner. Yeah, I think we would rather use Cook if he's healthy, and we might not know it in time because that's the Monday night game, right? But hopefully we'll get some news by Saturday on Jared Cook and get a real sense of whether he's recovered, whether he's okay. Hollister's floor is nothing. Hollister belongs to kind of the everyone else among tight end. And he had a streak there of 3 or 4 games where in his small volume, he was still – there's one game of like high volume, that Niner game, he had a high volume game, but otherwise he was like sneaking in a touchdown, and he's got real variance. I think he's going to be – Hollister's in my top 10 tight ends, but he's a nauseating option inside the top 10. I don't even want to say much. Jared Cook himself has it in him to be nauseating. He's been very good for a few weeks in a row, but I would prefer Cook over Hollister if you don't have a lot of clarity about whether Cook is available by the time you have to worry about Hollister. Yeah. Hollister's at least a fair replacement. I get it. Andrew says, I see the guitar. I want to hear the circa 2015. I'd rather have Jay Cutler. Maybe later. I'll try to remember to do that. Young Constant says, who do you think plays in the Super Bowl? I get asked that every week, and it probably changes every week. I mean, I've everybody who comes to this thing every week knows that I have a ticket on the Patriots to be in it, and I have the ticket on the Vikings to be in it because I like the price at the time. You know, I don't feel awesome about either one of those teams. I would not make either one of those teams the favorites. I think the two best teams in the AFC right now are almost very clearly Baltimore and Kansas City. But New England has a way of kind of figuring things out. I wouldn't rule them out. I think they're the third choice right now. And between Baltimore and Kansas City, Kansas City already won that game once. And I like the way their defense is playing. I think I would play, it's good. It would probably be in Baltimore, that AFC Championship game. Maybe I like Kansas City. I like Mahomes an awful lot. I think he's awfully good. But I respect the hell out of what Baltimore's doing. And then in the NFC, man, I mean, there's just super teams in the NFC. I'll say Saints still. Rough loss last week. Niners are right there. That could be the rematch of the NFC Championship game. That game could have flip-flopped 5 different times. It was one of the games of the year. And I guess I'll still say that I like the Saints' offensive personnel just a little bit more, but I would love for Kamara to look like Kamara in these next few weeks for sure. Let's see. So Josh has a question that can be answered on the wide receiver rankings, but it's still a good question for more of like a theoretical kind of thing that maybe will help more people. So what he says is, I have a tough decision. I've been riding Beckham all year. I just picked up A.J. Brown and kind of want to roll with the hot hand. What are your thoughts? So my thoughts, first of all, are check the ranks because I don't remember. They're real close to my ranks. I might have Brown a couple of spots higher because I didn't want to be yelled at anymore. But that might not be right. So I would say check the ranks. You're in the right neighborhood. And kind of what I want to say about flex at this point, I see lots of flex questions. And here's how I'm probably going to answer your flex questions right now. We've owned these guys for 4 months, 3.5 months. You know what they are as well as I do. You know which ones feast or famine. You know which ones are kind of like boring, but at least they give you something. You know which ones have a bad matchup. You know which ones are, maybe it's a good matchup, but they're not a major part of the offense. Like, you understand. We all do. You don't need me to tell you what Odell Beckham's season has been like, right? And similarly, what A.J. Brown's season. Like, we now have all the information we're going to have about all these players that we're considering for our lineups in general. This was kind of what the top of today's podcast was about. And what I was trying to get across was, as long as you're picking from among players in the same neighborhood, trust your gut. It's fine. Like, so for example, Josh is saying, I'd rather just use the hot hand. They're in the right neighborhood. I think if you check out my receiver ranks, you're going to find them within a few spots of each other. Same neighborhood. Trust your gut. Do what you want to do. And you don't know I can't tell you what's going to happen. The variables with Odell Beckham are so far beyond what anybody watching film or talking about in a podcast could ever know, right? I mean, it's frustrating. I'm frustrated right there with you. I'm the doofus who was recommending you trade for Odell Beckham 6 weeks ago. That was wrong. So of course, does he have it in him in a really good matchup against the Cardinals to go bananas? Of course he does, of course. Did he take advantage of a really good matchup against the Bengals last week? I'm going to go ahead and say no. But did he against the Dolphins 3 weeks ago? I'm going to say yes. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen. And similarly, the Titans don't throw a lot, and I think Ryan Tannehill played very well last week. I don't think that all of these good stat performances have been created equally. It's Ryan Tannehill, and if he winds up, not being very good in this game against Houston in a big spot, it won't surprise me. I have many years of observing Ryan Tannehill, and therefore, given that they don't throw the receivers that much, I could see a world where A.J. Brown goes right back to what he'd done for 6 weeks until the past couple of weeks. So I think I will answer lots of flex questions here, and I'm glad to do it. I'm so happy you're here. It's cool, really cool that we get to do this. I'm probably not going to have a lot of definitive answers for you. What I'm probably going to say is that does or doesn't seem like the right neighborhood for a flex that you're asking, because at some point, as well as I do what these players are. All right, so let's keep going. But actually, Thomas asks a question. I'm really surprised you have Josh Allen at 13 and Carson Wentz at 20. What are your reasons for that? So, Josh Allen has a hard matchup against the Steelers. There's no question. So I think what you're saying is, I want to start Carson Wentz. Okay, that's fine. I would hope that you watched the Monday night game. It wasn't very good, and he no longer has any wide receivers. So there's a world where Carson Wentz just isn't playing well at all, where Washington's defense has been playing okay. I mean, they went on the road against Aaron Rodgers last week and played fine. They've not actually allowed blow-ups by quarterbacks much recently. They certainly are capable of it. They're not great, but I think they've been better. And Wentz not playing well, and the wide receivers not existing. Maybe Nelson Aguilar plays, and if he doesn't, I mean, I don't even know. Is J.J. Arcega-Whiteside their number one receiver? He has a hamstring pull. Like, it might be Greg Ward. So, and granted, Carson Wentz can throw to the tight ends and make hay and get touchdowns and make big plays. It's very possible. He's a good player. I have to admit, if that were my decision, I would play Josh Allen because it's a worse matchup, but I got the somewhat safety of running usually. He gets a running touchdown a lot of the time. But if you have a different feeling, that's okay. Tom says, if Josh Jacobs is out, do you trust one over the other of his backups? I mean, last week made me tend to think that it's DeAndre Washington. And you're on this channel right now, so you're aware that it exists. And if you go to Tuesday's show where we did waiver wire, you can see what DeAndre Washington looked like because he got by far the Lions' share, the Raiders' share of the work in Jacobs' absence last week. He had some dump down stuff. Like, I wouldn't be super, super stoked about the receiving work. It was mostly like little check down David Card stuff, but David Carr checked us down a lot. I think Washington, before it looked like Jacobs might play, and I put him back in the ranks, I had Washington like 20 among running backs, and I had Jalen Richard like 37, but I don't know that that's right, because you're right. One game doesn't mean that's always the way it's going to be. I mean, did they win the game? Because, it's a really good matchup against Jacksonville, but I believe they did not win the game. Sean says, hey, came here to say, Mr. Christopher Harris, what is going on? What is going on? Thank you, Sean. That's a little shout out to Sharon Mitchell. Tom says, can't do it. Let's see. Zach. Okay, so here's where I'm going to start to answer these flex questions in the manner of which, I'll briefly talk about what they are as players, but you know what they are as players. I'll tell you whether I think they're where it's a fair comparison. It's Joe Mixon against the Patriots, bad matchup. Hot player, bad matchup. It's Christian Kirk, fine matchup against Cleveland, but Kyler Murray hasn't played well, and we know that he's pretty up and down. Are they in the same neighborhood? Sure, yes. And it's going to come down to how bad do you think it would be with the Patriot defense? How bad could we potentially be going back to 10 carries, 8 yards, Joe Mixon? Like, the thing that made everybody hate me for 6 weeks until Joe Mixon started playing well because their offensive line started playing well. I think it's a fair comparison. You're just going to have to choose which risk profile fits you the best. Let's see. Do you think Kareem Hunt has a higher floor in PPR than someone like James Conner, Matt Breida, or DeAndre Washington this week? I will hopefully have the lead after Lamar and the Ravens defense playing tonight. Higher floor. James Conner, Matt Breida, DeAndre Washington do not have high. I mean, I'll tell you, if I knew that Josh Jacobs was out, could I convince myself that DeAndre Washington maybe has a slightly higher floor than Kareem Hunt? Sure. Also, pretty easy matchup, although I don't hate Kareem Hunt's matchup either. But, I think in a world where Jacobs is out, if you held me at some weapon in front of my face, which please don't do that, and you told me, like, who touches it more, DeAndre Washington with no Josh Jacobs or Kareem Hunt with Nick Chubb playing, I'm probably going to say Washington. But Hunt plays a lot, and I think his floor is pretty safe. I think his floor is probably safer than Conner because Conner's floor is, my shoulder. Breida's the godfather of troll. I mean, he could get hurt at any time. Plus, he didn't play that many snaps last week. So I'm okay using Hunt, but I'm also okay if you decide Washington's the guy. Let's see. Ian says, Mr. Christopher Harris, what is going on? What is going on? Ian. Ian says, Mo, Ellie, Cox. Which, if you don't listen to the podcast, you're not going to get that, but it was pretty funny. Christian McCaffrey has a bra today, also quite funny. Cooper Kupp, Joe Mixon, says Steven. Are they in the same general neighborhood to consider? Because, again, I think you know what they are as players, right? We talked about Mixon already, and Cooper Kupp, he's, are the Rams resurgent? I don't know. Can I trust their multiple weapons? It seemed like it for 2 weeks, but before then, my God, no. Cooper Kupp seemed like an exception to the terrible stuff that's going on with the Ram offense, and then quickly he did not. For about a month there, he did not. So I think you're in the fair neighborhood, and it's going to come down to, again, which risk profile. I can't tell you what's going to happen. I don't know any better than you do. You know what these players are. But, yeah, I think they're in a fair neighborhood. Like, I can't tell you. I don't do projections. I can't tell you that I know exactly what Mixon's stat line is going to be. I just don't. I can see the world where the Patriots get out ahead and they make their 2 turnovers. They score 2 touchdowns. It's 21-0, and bye-bye Joe Mixon, and it's a really good defense anyway, and he's got no chance, and it looks like it looked the first 6 weeks. I can also see the world where it's a close game because the Patriots' offense hasn't been very good, and if the Bengals take care of the ball, they might give it to Mixon 20 times, in which case, I'll tell you, I want Joe Mixon over a lot of guys. But, yeah, I wish I knew. I mean, it's a riskier matchup than it's been. This is a riskier matchup than using him against the Browns, no question about it. But, I mean, I have a league where I have to use him. I don't have the choice. And Kupp has risk too, and, there's reward for both as well. I think it's a fair comparison. Let's see. Will the Colts have to throw the ball all night on the Saints, asks Aaron. I think we commit folly when we proclaim that we know game flow, and I know that's a big part of how a lot of people approach fantasy. I go on other shows, and I know that that's the big thing. Like, well, I looked at the over-under, and I looked at the spread, and it tells me they're going to be behind, and there are going to be a lot of points scored, and therefore start all your Colts. It isn't how I roll. I feel like potentially in the aggregate, if you take every 256 games played every year and you run the numbers, sure, it's possible that games that have higher over-unders, the wide receiver threes, get a little more work, but it feels like it's a slight edge, and I want to pay specific attention to the teams in question. In the case of the Colts, could they be behind? Certainly, they absolutely could be. They have a pretty good defense, though, and their offensive line is usually pretty good, so I'm not going to say that's a fait accompli. And, more importantly, do I trust that passing game? Can I identify the wide receiver? Do I really want to start Marcus Johnson as the number 2 receiver? Now, T.Y. Hilton's making noise about practicing, so maybe it's Hilton back, and then it becomes a little more relevant because Hilton's a very explosive player, but last time we saw him play, he pulled a Thielen, he pulled his calf. So, for me, more important than game flow prediction, more important than looking at the over-under and the spread is to say, do I actually like the players? I think Pascal, with no Hilton, has some appeal to him. If Hilton's there, he has some appeal, but the risk will be so incredibly high. I don't imagine I'm going to rank him anywhere near where I'd normally rank him. And for Brissett, it hasn't meant aggression. He doesn't have a lot of aggressive games, even when they've been down. They play a lot of close games, too, to be honest. So it's not something that I would count on to devise my fantasy strategy. I wouldn't throw the whole thing ass over tea kettle at the last minute because Marcus Johnson needs to be in my lineup because they're definitely throwing deep to him. I just think we trick ourselves a little bit sometimes. Let's see. Ryan says, Kenny Golladay and Julio Jones if you're worried. I got Julio and Matt Ryan. Just doesn't force it to Julio like he should, and I'd imagine the rookie quarterback will keep throwing to his remaining number 1 weapon. I would play Julio first, but I understand it. Again, that's a good question, but again, it's you now know you're capable. You all could do this job. You're perfectly capable of doing what any schmo does on any podcast including me at this time of year, which is to say, golly, rookie quarterback, really, he's not very good. David Blau played bad last week, but eventually, with 2 minutes left in the game, he found Kenny Golladay for a touchdown. Glad the game wasn't 58 minutes long because Kenny Golladay would have screwed me, but he didn't. And there's no Marvin Jones, and so, but don't the Buccaneers know that? So isn't there extra attention to be paid to Golladay? I don't, I have Julio rated higher. You know that. That's why I asked the question. Is it fair to say I just feel like Galladay's got a couple of touchdowns with this kid and there's no Marvin Jones? I'm going to roll with him. It's fair. That's your call. I don't think it's outrageous. It's not like you're telling me, and that's why Danny Amendola needs to start over Julio Jones, right? You're being rational. You're just saying, well, I don't know. I have a feeling. I'm frustrated with Julio. I have a feeling. I can live with it if Julio goes off. And if you can live with it, I get it. I think they're in the same neighborhood. It's fine. Tom says, I watched a biography of David Letterman not too long ago, and he'd always call his show stupid. You are the Letterman of fantasy football, because it is true, Tom. My show is so stupid. Michelle says, with Chark out, and we're not positive that Chark is out, but I'm with you. That's how I ranked it, Michelle. I'm left playing with John Brown. Should I risk playing Marquise Brown or Allen Hurns. Heath seems to be the only guy that has any faith in Brown. I have some degree of faith in Marquise Brown. So in John Brown, I have some degree of faith. I don't have lots of faith in Marquise Brown. So I'm actually not sure what you're asking me, whether it's so John Brown's definitely in and you have to choose between Marquise Brown and Hurns. I would pick Marquise Brown. If you're telling me I can choose between John Brown, Marquise Brown, or Hurns, then I would probably pick John Brown. That's how I would roll. Let's see. Luke says, how much do you trust Aaron Rodgers? I can't remember, Luke, but I think I ranked him 10, maybe. So I guess I would say, compared to how much I usually trust him, I got some issues. And I said when I did the film review of the Green Bay Washington game on Tuesday, probably, I did a little bit of review on his film. So if you haven't listened, I'd encourage you to take a listen to that podcast on Tuesday. But what I said at the time was, I know no matter how I rank Rodgers against the Bears this week, people are going to be mad. Like, I kind of judge my life by how many people are mad at me. Like, oh, this week, lots of people are mad at me. I don't know what that means. Is that good or bad? I feel sad, but it's okay. I've been doing this a very long time. I don't really get my emotions mixed up in it, but I can tell when people are outraged by a rank or mad. You hear the same thing on Twitter a lot, right? And I know one way or the other, Rodgers too high, Rodgers too low. If I had ever put Rodgers ahead of Ryan Tannehill, which I did not, I'd be unleashing fury. So to some degree, I just capitulate and I go, fine, go ahead, start Tannehill. Just start him. Fine. I don't have him, so I don't have to worry about it for myself. I think back to week 1, and I think what that game, Bears-Packers, looked like, and it wasn't particularly good for Rodgers. And the Bears aren't a sexy fantasy defense this year because all the stuff that we can't predict, all the pick six stuff, all the fumble six stuff, all the kind of not repeatable plays aren't happening for them, but they're still very good on defense, and it's a tough matchup. I think Rodgers I'm going to be using in one semifinal. My other choice would be Derek Carr. Sorry, not going there. But you can look at the quarterback list and you can see that I have some guys who I don't think are as good of players as Aaron Rodgers. With the hard matchup that Rodgers has, I can see not using him. CG says, who's likelier to boom 20-plus points? Give me the boom guy between Ryan Fitzpatrick, Jameis Winston, or Jimmy Garoppolo. The boom guy is always Jameis Winston. I mean, we have to make sure he's playing because of the wrist. But the boom guy is always Jameis Winston, right? The problem is that the bust guy was always Jameis Winston too. But, if you're just purely like, nope, I need upside. I don't care. I'm willing to take the risk. Winston is the one with the upside, no matter what receivers he doesn't have. He doesn't care about defenses. He doesn't look. He's not paying any attention. He's like, oh, there's my guy over there. Other guy's invisible. I'll throw it to him. I mean, he's a madman. He's a wild man. And he's not a starting quarterback in the NFL because usually you should pay attention to where the defense is. But for the moment, I think he's the one with the upside. Eric says, I'm scared about Mark Andrews. What should I do? I'm going to answer that question again just because I already did it earlier, but people are dropping in and out. And yeah, I understand why you're scared. It is annoying and scary. I don't have any information that you don't have. I don't know about his injury. I don't know. I mean, it seems like he's going to play, but I have no idea how much, and I have no idea whether he takes one shot on the knee. Some Jets defender goes, I know his knee hurts, and hits him there when he gets the ball, and he's done. Like, I just don't know. There's obviously more risk. If you want to hear longer thoughts about the Mark Andrews situation, talked about it a little bit on the podcast. When was that? Wednesday? It all blends together. You can see where I ranked him. I ranked him 7, but there's obviously more risk than normal. So if you just don't want to play that game, it comes down to all these decisions. Every single decision you're asking me about, and it's fine to ask me. I don't mind that at all. But like, it's going to come down to what situation can you live with more? The guy that you don't want to play, are you going to be more mad if you play him and he poops the bed, or if you don't play him and he scores 8 touchdowns? Which is going to make you more mad? Do the other one. I think that's how all of our decisions should be made. Deus says, play some Skinner, man. I'm not going to. Matt says, Eli is trash. His ranking is trash. I mean, he should be ranked, not a number. He should be ranked trash. Yeah, he played bad on Monday night. No question. I see some quarterback questions. I see some running back questions. I see Jordan saying, Mr. Christopher Harris, what is going on? You can always tell the podcast listeners. If you have a single position question, this running back or that running back, that wide receiver, I always say that this is live stream. I don't have the ranks memorized. I spend 5 hours making them, and then I have to like not go crazy. So go to harrisfootball.com. That's where my single position ranks are. And you can ask me why. That's fine, but my answer is really there. Okay, so more flex questions. And then I'm going to get to a good comment. James says, Laxatives Murray or Terry McLaurin. And again, the way I'm answering these are much more in the vein of, hey, is this a fair comparison? Are they in the same neighborhood? At which point, you know these players as well as I do. You can decide. I think you know that Terry McLaurin has boom bust all over him. Dwayne Haskins is his quarterback, for God's sake. He could do nothing, but he gets to play against a bad Eagles secondary that's got ripped up, so he has boost. And Laxative Murray, he's in the middle. He's okay. So which one do you want? I do think it's a fair comparison. I do. More upside, says Sam. Stephon Diggs or Cortland Sutton? I would probably say Diggs. I think Diggs is more experienced. He's a better route runner. He's faster. Probably a little more upside. Sutton has plenty of upside, but he's got a rookie quarterback in a hostile environment against a good team. A defense is playing a lot better. I think Diggs probably has more upside there. I like his comment, Rashid. It may just be Rashid. Says, I'm just here to be held hostage until you get a sufficient number of likes. In which case, let's do it. We're at 158 people watching this and only 57 likes. I mean, let's get to 100. Go. I'm holding you hostage. Give me likes. 59. I'll have some Possum water vodka. I can tell you the latest of the pot. As soon as I'm done drinking water and you are giving me likes, then I'll tell you the latest drama with the Possum. Oh, boy. We're at 79 likes, 83 likes. If you're on mobile and you don't know how, close the chat window. There's a like button. Hit it. Go back. I know you're going to get there. Easily. We're going to eclipse 100 in a moment. We're at 90 already. Amazing. And Ra or Rashid, you have to tell me, is your name Rashid or is your name Ra? I apologize for messing it up. Will have been held hostage appropriately. It's a little Ted Ginn situation. Again, people who don't listen to the podcast have no idea what I'm talking about. 95. $99. Hostage situation. 100 got there. Andrew says get a crystal ball. I really should. Diego said, I'm waiting to be like number 69. Ah, crap, I missed it. Hit the like buttons, you animals, says James. Pink King Colton says, do you think the Steelers are actually good or not? I think they're good. I think they're very capped to how good they can be because of where the offense is, and specifically because where the quarterback is. They're not going to win 2 playoff games. They could win a wild card game. I kind of think they won't. I kind of think they'll make the playoffs, though. This season, maybe more than any other, reveals what a freaking great coach Mike Tomlin is. He's really, really, really good coach. And I got to say, there have been past seasons where I thought they've had better talent than their results, and I've questioned whether I thought Mike Tomlin, maybe what Mike Tomlin's best at is not so much getting the best out of a great group, but more getting the best out of a meh group. There are coaches like that, but he's doing an incredible job. He should be coach of the year. I don't want to hear. Harbaugh would be a good. Shanahan would be good. I think it should be Tomlin. What a job. That team with that quarterback has no business being on this kind of winning streak. I don't think they're good enough to really do anything in the playoffs, though. I don't. Ryan said something, and I lost it. Where'd it go, Ryan? Where'd it go? What happened to the Ronald Jones hype? What happened was the Buccaneers never really seemed to buy into it, right? I don't think it's fair to say the hype was wrong. Ronald Jones has proven the whole year he's a better player than Peyton Barber by a lot. But if Bruce Arians just doesn't want to play him, there's not much more we can do. And not only that, but there's so many games where they don't even run at all. And they don't use either guy on third down. And just generally speaking, I'm flummoxed. I don't see how you can, in a short window type situation, Ronald Jones can score touchdowns and get a lot of usage and be pretty good. But in a short window here, can't do it. Sam says, do you feel like people too often play season-long fantasy as though it's daily? And I hashtag smash the like button. It depends on the league. in some season-long leagues where maybe some owners aren't that active and maybe the waiver wire is like very, very available and there's lots and lots of ad drop, maybe a little bit, and then the sort of lack of patience. I had one down week from I'm trying to think of someone who had one down week, but has been mostly pretty good. I mean, even McCaffrey. I had one bad week for McCaffrey. I don't want him. That's probably an exaggeration. But you know what I'm saying. Say just Mixon's start to the season, where I was like, please buy him, or at least please don't kill me for recommending that you draft him. And, like, in the end, you're just hoping that talent eventually wins out. And I think there's probably less patience if people do play that way. If you are playing that way, I think you're probably not going to win as often as you will if you do have patience. I'll say that. Let's see. Mark says Latavius Murray or Marquise Brown. Fair neighborhood. Yeah, because Marquise, I would probably play, I don't know. No, I think it's a fair neighborhood. I mean, do you need total boom bust? Then you know who to pick. Do you want to make sure you get something? Then you know how to pick. I think they're probably close, and it comes down to what you need. Michelle says, can you explain where the possum comes from for us newbies? The possum, I don't know where he comes from. He just lives on my damn yacht. So the whole possum story came about because I did trivia night one night in Los Angeles, obviously descended from the yacht. This is the main suite of the yacht here. And I descended from my incredible yacht, wink, 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 and went to trivia, and one of the answers was a possum. Andy Behrens was on the podcast the next day. And before we started talking, I was like really mad that we came in second. In trivia, we didn't know this answer. Would you have gotten it right? And he didn't. And I said, the answer is blah, 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 possum. And out of nowhere, unbidden, he goes, not on the show, he goes, I hate possums so much. I hate them. Viscerally hated possums. And I'd never given possums any thought at all. And it was funny. It was a funny diatribe. So I said, hey, hold on. Andy's like one of my best friends. He's my great friend in the business anyway. And so I said, can we hit record? He goes, sure. So we did like 5 minutes on hating possums. I didn't think too much more of it. And then Twitter went bananas when they heard it. And then the next day, since Twitter had gone bananas, I asked cousin Josh, who's the regular Friday guest on my show, and he's like, I hate possums too. And I was like, whoa. And that really launched 1,000 ships. And that's when the actual possum heard the show and came and decided to live with me. And I was like, yeah, sure. We need a mascot on this here yacht. And now to update the story on the Possum Water Vodka. So you all know that the possum became a partner with some potentially shady characters in the distillery, the vodka distillery. This is the vodka. This is the Possum Water Vodka. Let me have a sip. I'm hammered. It's delicious. And, I've got like pre-batches. They're about to launch. The Possum last month came back from a trip to Vegas to see his wise guy friends. A big fan of Josh Jacobs, the Jack Gerbil, and with a broken paw. And so my thing was, he claimed he fell down an escalator. It was some sort of madcap. He thought he was in a musical. He's very drunk, and he claims he fell down an escalator. I think sometimes he makes up these stories a little bit sometimes to cover up for real stuff that happens. I'm not sure what happened with his wise guy friends. All right, the update is, so he got his PSL and a luxury box at the new Raiders stadium. He actually hung out with Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs signed his cast. It was a very small pen. And his business partners, whether it's real or not, they send in a note to the show that, I'm not going to really – I'll mention it here. I'm not going to mention the podcast or bigger deal. This is a couple hundred of my closest friends are here. I can tell you all. Yeah, the wise guys are like, listen, maybe back off. We didn't hurt the kid. Maybe back off. So I'm going to go ahead and say it was an escalator incident, and the possum seems very happy. He shows that little cast everywhere. You need one of those like little loops, those little, look at gems and stuff. You have to see the signature. It's very small, but possum seems happy. You can't argue I'm not creative with telling you what actually happened, obviously. So if you're asking a single position question, once again, Carrie, I like that comment. If you're asking a single position question, JM, go to harrisfootball.com. Honestly, that's where the answer lies for you. Carrie says, has the possum pitched his life story to Netflix yet? It's true. Today we had on the podcast, someone said, hey, can't Netflix, I'm sure they're listening, can't they get the rights to War on Sound and get Minka Kelly or Adrian Palicki involved with a War on Sound adaptation. And here we go. There's another possible. I really ought to be in a production deal with Netflix, but hey, man. Diego, I'm not going to read that, Diego. It's not nice. Let's see. Bone says, this story makes me feel like I'm drunk. I know. Sam says, favorite comedians. I don't know. I don't watch a lot of stand-up, but I do enjoy it. But I wouldn't be able to name a lot of names. I'm not enough of an aficionado. Yeah, Diego, haha, whatever, dude. Lou says, Geico is going to come calling when they need a replacement for the gecko. I know, Lou. Here, all right, we're 40 minutes in. I should mention the sponsor because they're paying a little bit to be associated with the channel, which is awesome. We appreciate BetDSI. So you probably all know that I play my own, I do, when I bet NFL games, I do it at BetDSI. So what I wanted to ask you here is, what's your favorite bet of the week against the spread? I'm going to read out what you think your favorite bet is against the spread, and I'll tell you mine. Do I remember what mine is? Let's see if I can figure out what mine is real quick. Yeah, I think I got mine. So you tell me yours. Diego, you troll, says Mark. Diego says, appreciate you. No, I know. It's just, shouldn't say it out loud. It's not that nice. Jacob just has a prediction that Kareem Hunt gets 20-plus points in a half-point per reception league. You heard it with Jacob first. So Addison likes Green Bay. I think that's last time I saw on BetDSI, Green Bay was 4.5. I think I might like Chicago. I don't know. I'm not sure about that one. I'm a little paranoid. Maybe the Green Bay streaks, the Bear streak falls down a little bit. Deus says he likes Niners big over the Falcons. It's a lot of points. What's that one? 11. I kind of like them too. I think I would take Niners there too. Let's see. Who else we got? Not a lot of people tell me their favorites. I'll tell you my favorite. I say Minnesota. I think it's -2.5 at Chargers, and the Chargers played well last week, but that's a home game for Minnesota. So don't tell me I'm not going to do the 3-point thing. That's a home game for Minnesota, basically. Maybe I'd give the Chargers 1 point for home field here, but I think that's a less than a field goal for the Vikings there. I like the Vikings a lot. I'm good. So if you're interested in BetDSI, you can find the link in the show notes. We have 2 promo codes. Only use the Harris Tube 100 if you are a regular player, because you're just going to be annoyed. Otherwise, if you want to be able to play a few times and then cash out, better to do Harris Tube 5. That's the better promo code. Either way, I play at BetDSI every week. And Ryan says the Chargers are garbage, says someone who lives in San Diego. I get that. Armando says, give me the Bengals and the points. I'm on it too, buddy. I am absolutely on it too. I don't think the Patriots have looked very good. It was 9 the last time I looked. I'm with you. I think it's too many points. Maybe it's a 50-0 game. It could very well be. I just don't think that offense has played very well. If we're just going to bet on magic, then we give 20 points, right? But if we're going to bet on what we've seen, I think I like the Bengals too. Ralph says, agreed, Bengals and the points. Broncos against Mahomes and his not broken hand. Who said that? MD Borsich. That line last time I saw was Kansas City -9.5. -9.5. Maybe. It's a tough spot for Locke. If Locke plays well in that one, I'm going to be more of a believer. The Houston thing feels now in retrospect a little predictable. Like, of course Jim O'Brien or Bill O'Brien, whatever his name is, not Jim O'Brien. Of course Bill O'Brien and his chin cleft would like poop the bed after the biggest win of his life. Of course he would. Lou says, I'm not sure if you addressed this yet, but I could not believe how few snaps Cooper Kupp had last week. And this week could call for same usage because it worked so well and Dallas is easier to run on. Hey, man, I'm with you. There were 2 receiver sets that were Josh Reynolds and Robert Woods. Like, Robert Woods looks like the number 1 receiver to me over the past couple of weeks, and I don't really understand it because it's such a sudden change. And it happens after Robert Woods misses games for personal reasons, or maybe missed one game, but there was maybe going to miss that Monday night game where we couldn't use him. It all feels weird to me. I mean, I'm nervous about Kupp too. You know, you start to feel like, okay, maybe the Rams offensive line is starting to put something together, but it's hard to trust when you don't have the whole season to wait it out. You know, it's hard to trust. I'm not saying Cooper Kupp is a bench, not at all. But I get why you'd feel like it's risky. I mean, I get it. He wasn't on the field a fair amount, and Robert Woods is the wide receiver one. It's a weird development. Let's see. Ian says, what's your take on starting players from the same team? This weekend I have to start Joe Mixon with Tyler Boyd and Marlon Mack with Zach Pascal in Superflex. I mean, my take is if you have to, you have to. I mean, we know it when we have to, right? We know it when, there's no, otherwise I'm starting Danny Amendola, and we don't want to do that. Now, smash cut, I want someone to edit this from the moment I said that to Danny Amendola's 5th touchdown celebration, but, normally that doesn't happen. My feeling is it's not great, but and especially when it's the Bengals, it's really not great because we don't like the matchup and we don't like the quarterback. And I don't love it, but at some point we don't have a choice. I don't love it. Now, sometimes I love it. I would say I generally speaking don't have a take. I think it comes down to the individual players and their matchup. And in the case of both of those are bad matchups. I don't like either one. But, I think most cases you're going to start Mac. And if you don't have a choice and have to start Pascal because the alternative is Danny Amendola, you just go, okay, I hope they score. I mean, you don't love it. You find yourself in a bad situation. But if it were multiple Ravens, maybe the Ravens aren't the right because Mark Andrews is hurt. If it were multiple Chiefs, it was, darn it, I have to start Hill and Kelsey. No, I like starting Hill and Kelsey every week. I'm good. I don't think I have the rule is I have no rule would be the answer. I see questions about defenses. Just go to the ranks, harrisfootball.com. I see questions about tight ends. Just go to harrisfootball.com. Marcus asks, Evan Ingram, Mark Andrews, or Juju Smith-Schuster? Marcus, find a healthy player because there's a chance none of those guys play. I guess Juju was downgraded. So that's a little bit scary. Evan Ingram, no guarantee to play. And Mark Andrews sounds like he's going to suit up. But again, the Mark Andrews thing is, I've talked about it all show. I'm obviously very nervous. I have him at tight end 7 because tight end's a dumpster fire. But I have no idea what's going to happen because none of us can. We're not inside his knee. JM says, did you already talk about the Thursday Night Football line? The default Jets. Do you default to Jets plus 17? And I'm a different JM, by the way. I do have. I mean, I got it at 16.5, so now that it's 17, I kind of wish I'd waited. But yeah, I think it's. I just think I don't love playing it. I would never put it in a super contest. But I usually play most games just for a little bit of money. So I did buy Jets 16.5, not 17. I don't feel good about it. I set the line at 15. That's what my prediction for the line was. But, I mean, at some point you go, oh, that could be a 50-0 game. The Jets are without 3/4 of their secondary. They're without the best Quinnen Williams in the middle. It's a bad matchup for the offense because I don't really trust any of those receivers to be able to get open against those 3 really good corners. There's a reason this line is as high as it is because it could very well be a total blowout. Usually when the line is that big, I'm probably going to take the underdog because there's just so many ways for them to back into a cover. But it doesn't feel good. I don't want to push that one on anybody. Different JM says recommendations on getting a novel published and the writing process. I mean, getting a novel published is impossible. It's not impossible. It's just so hard. I mean, I've had 4 published. I have a 5th done right now. It's still all public. It'll get out there, but it's still pulling teeth. People don't read fiction. It stinks. It's just not the world that I grew up in. Certainly I'm older than most of you where that was my dream was to write fiction. And you just can't really make a living doing that anymore. All but 10 people can't make a living doing that anymore. So that part of it stinks. But the more important part is the writing it because writing a book and proving to yourself that you can do it is as rewarding as anything. It requires a stupefying amount of discipline. I mean, you have to do the same thing borderline every day for hours, for months and years. And it requires self-sacrifice and you can't, it's so hard. And if you do it, if you work at it and you make it as good as you can make it, there's reward having realized that you were able to do it, whether or not you ever get it published. It's the truth. It sounds sappy, but it is the truth. I believe in it. It's much more about, nobody should write a novel because they want to make a lot of money, because that's not the way things work anymore. You should do it because you can't not do it, and because it's a mountain that you want to climb, and it takes a lot. It really does. This is a good question. Where did it go? Philip says, Am I crazy for thinking that Boston Scott is a good play if Jordan Howard is out? Even when Miles Sanders returned, he was getting more snaps and touches and goal line carries with the game on the line. You know what? You're absolutely right. That was what it was. I'm glad you watched it, because I think when we watch it, we develop such a better opinion than we just look at stats. So I think you're making a really extremely smart point. And if Jordan Howard is out, which he very well might be, in my ranks I have him in right now, I have a decision to do. I'm not just going to immediately assume, it's Miles Sanders. Boston Scott isn't in my ranks right now, but he's going to get there if there's no Jordan Howard. Will I have the cojones to put him above Miles Sanders? It's so tough. If you were just going to base it on what the Giants game, you'd say yeah. Now, anybody who wants to defend Miles Sanders will say Sanders was cramping up. He came back and maybe wasn't fully himself. That yada, yada, yada. If you don't follow me on Twitter, follow me at Harris Football. I tweeted out a couple of pieces of video of the last Miles Sanders run where he should have scored a touchdown. It's embarrassing, and it makes you think that the vision in this kid isn't very good. And Boston Scott did play better. And what he is sort of Darren Sproles. He's a little bit bigger, but he's pretty small. And he's like a worse Darren Sproles. And there have been times with that Eagle offense over the years and the Saints offense over the years where Darren Sproles was the better guy to play, but it's always been tough to just say, lock it in, I'm sure. I'm not sure. I would hesitate. I would hedge. But you're not crazy, for sure. Let's see. HHC says, I'm a Jet fan. I feel the Jets are a great matchup for the Ravens. Great against the run and the tight end, which are two areas that they can hit where they can hit the Ravens. Listen, here's what I'll say. I bet the Jets. I don't necessarily think it's a close game. I hope you're right, because I want to watch a good game. I certainly will be watching. Sam says, if you started a new league tomorrow, what's your preferred lineup and scoring system? I assume Superflex and no kickers and no defense team. You're right about those three. It would be Superflex. It would be no kicker. It would be no defense. It would be probably 3 receivers and a flex and maybe 2 flexes. I like having deeper benches, and I like having fewer wide receiver 3 in the melancholy infinite sadness nonsense where you're just like, I got 8 guys, they're all the same, I don't care. I like being able to draft well and feel like I can actually use a few of them. I like that. So probably, my favorite league is the La Liga Lebowski format that I invented, I guess. I wrote, and we've been playing it this might be the 10th year, I think, and or 9th year. I don't know if it's the 9th year or the 10th year, but I think it's the 9th year. And if you don't follow at La Liga Lebowski on Twitter, that's Colin. He's in the league, and he's a good follow for information about the league. It's intense. It's a dynasty league that has a very complicated salary structure with all sorts of stuff like salary cap hits for cutting players and player holdouts and franchise tags and transition tags and all sorts of complicated nonsense, but it's really fun. And for next year, I would recommend you start up a La Liga clone league. There are lots of them. Digital Hunter says, hey, Harris, what is your aversion to wall hangings? Well, it's a yacht, so it sways a lot and just stuff falls off. So I just feel like it's not that much of a big deal. It's very, very complicated. Armando says, how are you doing in your fantasy leagues? I'm doing well. I'm doing very well. So now I'm in a ton of leagues because there's a lot of expert leagues. They ask you to play out, but when it's an expert league and they say play it out, there's no trades. I always forget to do waivers. It's just how well did you draft. So I don't really care. Sometimes I remember to set a lineup. I don't really care about those leagues. The 2 leagues that I'm commissioner of, Large and La Liga, both of which have their own Twitter handles, I'm in the semis of both. And I would say in Large, I'm a pretty good favorite to make it to the finals, where I will not be the favorite. And then in La Liga, we'll see. Now, here's the rub with this. So in large, I have Mixon drafted in, and it's a modified keeper league where you can make a trade and sacrifice future draft picks to get players for the playoff run. And I traded for Zeke. I gave up an early pick next year for Zeke. So I have Zeke and Mixon, and it's working. Unfortunately, the team that I'm playing against in La Liga Lebowski semifinals has, you guessed it, Zeke and Mixon. So it feels to me like I'm likely to win one and not the other, but I guess we'll see. Pink says, who do you think is the defensive player of the year? That's a very good question. I mean, can't you make the argument for – well, you can make the argument for a few guys, but you can certainly make the argument for Bosa. The first name that leapt in my mind was Bosa, which is crazy, but he's been just a complete wrecking ball. Like, he's just a total, complete, utter difference maker. Like Minkah Fitzpatrick had he had that streak there where people are like, maybe he's defensive player of the year. He gets traded and he makes a turn, pick six but it's probably not going to happen for him. I don't know. Maybe I would say Bosa, but Matt Judon. We're going to see him tonight. He's got a bunch of numbers. I don't know if he's great. I think part of what makes the Ravens pass rush good is that the secondary's been unbelievably good. But yeah, a bunch of guys. Bow down to the Broncos, says some random person. Cool. Enter zone. Again, if you're asking a running back question, just go to the harrisfootball.com. Mohammed says, Harris keeps skipping over my question. I'm so sad. But I didn't skip over that one. Who do you trust more, says Mohammed, in a standard league for flex? Mixon, Eckler, or Adrian Peterson, who has the most upside? So the reason I skip over it, though, Mohammed, is because they're all running backs. So you can look at my list at harrisfootball.com, and you'll see the order in which I have them ranked. However, you did add a twist, which was who has the most upside. It's not really a flex question. It's a really running back question. But between Mixon, Eckler, and Peterson, who has the best case scenario, it's probably Mixon. But Eckler certainly has shown tons and tons of upside on a per-play basis. The problem with Eckler's upside, maybe it's Eckler. I'd be fine if you used Eckler. It's fine. I might even check the ranks. I might have Eckler ranked, factoring in all conditions. I might have Eckler ranked ahead of Mixon. I'm not sure. I can't remember. It's close. Peterson's not in the conversation for me. But, Eckler has the possibility of making a big play in the pass game every week. He seems to every single week. And he made a 90-yarder last week. It looked awfully good. So lots of upside there. His worry is that the downside is scary because of the lack of playing time. Melvin Gordon's always going to play more. Mixon has the upside of just being the 20-something touch running back, and in a game where things go well and he gets a couple touchdowns. I think you're choosing between those guys. I don't think there's not a definitely right answer. Let's see. Eckler has more upside, says Antoine. There you go. It is decided. Antoine has decided. Lean Ranger says, would you be okay playing Raheem Mostert and Emmanuel Sanders in the same lineup? I don't have a definitive rule that says you always do or you always don't play guys from the same team, or especially running back wide receiver. I don't have that rule. I feel like that rule was very pushed by people who thought they were on the bleeding edge like 10 years ago. Not you, but and then people did statistical work and they were like, no, if they're good players, just play them. Good players on good offenses that score a lot of points wind up scoring points. Strikes me those guys are pretty good. I think Mostert probably is going to be in most lineups this week after these past couple of weeks. And then the question comes down to what other wide receivers do you have? And you can check out my ranks and see where I have Sanders rated relative to other players. All right, here's the guitar. I'll keep answering questions, but I can play the guitar a little bit. I don't remember what to play. What should I play? Not Stairway. That's like a Blue Tones song, I think. I just learned the progression of it. Does anybody remember Blue Tones? James H. says, I literally stay for the guitar. Literally. Esteban says, Freebird! How do you play I Burn? I forget how to play it. I know how to play that, don't I? Maybe not. Oh, I don't think I remember. I should be able to figure that out. I'm going to put the pick down. I should be able to figure that out. Dang it. It goes. Oh, yeah. Up here. Yeah. Pretty easy. When you remember where to put your finger. Enter Zone is very sure that it's Broncos country. I don't think it's Broncos country here, really. Esteban says, play Say Yes by the Wellspring. I never learned that one. Victor says, it sounds like Hit Me Baby One More Time. No, that's different. That's this one. Oh, let's see. Rashid says, huh? Fantasy 28 says PPR, Woods or Jacobs Washington. I think they're in the fair neighborhood. I think, Woods is hard to get away from, given that we don't know if Jacobs were active. Like, will he really have the full workload? Tough to really say. But Woods feels like I could probably, yeah. Does Washington move ahead of Kareem Hunt if in PPR if Jacobs is out? Sorry if you already answered. What I remember is that I don't remember where I have Hunt, to be honest. I remember that I had James Washington around 20. So I'm imagining I probably had Hunt a little bit higher. But, yeah. I think I'd play Hunt. I don't know. Rashid says it's always winter in Bronco country. What else do I know how to play? I know how to play a lot of things, but I forget. I get panicked with all of you here, I don't remember. Oh, I remember a song that you like, that you won't like, that nobody likes, but I kind of like it. Old song. Met a girl, thought she was grand, fell in love at the first hand. Fell for a week or two, and it all came undone. Oh yeah. Puddle of Mud, indeed. And actually, I like it. HHC goes Puddle of Mud and spells it right. MUDD. That band sucked, but I did like that song. She effing hates me, says Andrew. Hey, Andrew. Andrew's better at music than I am. Hi, Andrew. Andrew, I apologize. I apologize for doing this to you, exposing you to my guitar playing. You're better at music than I am. Ryan says, don't quit your day job. That's cool, Ryan. I'm not going to. Agreed. The music teacher. Andrew says, the music teacher appreciates this part of the live stream. Indeed. Jose says you need to do that. You need to do a duet with Liz Loza. Yeah. Oh, sure. Ken says, do you remember the Posies? I don't know any Posies on guitar, but I had that record, Frosting on the Beater. I had that record. Yeah. Preet says Indochino in the house. Indeed, Indochino in the house. All I know is that my music knowledge and creativity go to waste in any attempt to make a mixtape because I can't play or sing. Well, if you write one, I think Andrew, were you the one who said you would sing for somebody? If you write one, at Andrew. I said that on the podcast yesterday, I think. Do I remember other things? What else do I remember? That's boring. I don't want to play that one. I played that Refreshment song last week. Remember that? That record was really good. Fizzy, Fuzzy, Big and Buzzy or something like that. I like that. Or no, this one was from the second album, but never mind. I'm travel. I'll go beyond that thirst and the tears I cry for you, all gone. So lay down on the floor, turn up my radio. Come on, river, oh, just make me cry. I made out all night till I had to give up the fight. Come on, river, oh, just make me cry. Come on, river, oh, just make me cry. Nobody remembers that record? She effing hates me, Matt says. A story about Liz Loza visiting Ohio. Any Sublime? I think I played that last time, right? How's that riff go? Oop, that was wrong. All right, I probably should get going. I got to prep for other stuff I got to do. We got to go watch this game together, too. That'll be fun. Thank you for being here. I hope you subscribe to the channel. Are y'all subscribed to the channel? It would really help if you would subscribe to the channel. Please do. That would be lovely. Andrew says, no more self-deprecating comments about your musical abilities. Oh, because I wailed that solo. Oh, yeah, baby. Play How Bizarre. I don't think I have that one, Diego. Oh, I know what I have. Did I play Landslide last time? A little Landslide? I don't think I'm on the right fret, am I? The problem isn't my ability, Andrew. The problem is not remembering anything. Too high, right? Took my love, took it down. Right? All right, I'm going to get going. We'll see you. See you later. And go win some games this weekend. I'll be on the podcast tomorrow. I'll be on Film Don't Lie for another live stream on the Facebook. If you are a person of the book, you can come and ask me questions, and I'll get to everybody's question on Sunday mornings. And then I'll be back on the podcast also on Monday. We'll see you. Bye-bye.